Because of his distrust of the Allies, Stalin ordered the offensive on Berlin on 16th April, a month ahead of the schedule that he had given to the Allies. To Berlin. These are the signs on the right picture. To Berlin. And this was not just a sign pointing the direction, but also a call which had a special meaning for the Russians, for the Soviet troops and for the Russians. Now we are coming to Berlin, finally. The decision to start the attack on Berlin earlier increased Soviet losses. But by now, the power of the Soviet army was overwhelming. Even the most desperate German resistance could not stop it. 2.5 million military participated in the Soviet attack on Berlin, against less than 800,000 Germans. Artillery pieces. The number of artillery pieces that the Soviet army had was 4.5 times greater than what Wehrmacht had. As part of the victory celebrations, Stalin was awarded the title of the Generalissimo of the USSR. And in that capacity, he arrived in July for the conference in Potsdam. This is Cäcilienhof Palace, the site of the Potsdam Conference. Stalin traveled there by train. And on arrival, he discovered that the situation was different. It was much worse than in Yalta, because now Roosevelt was not there. There was Harry Truman. Harry Truman did not have the glamour of his predecessor, but he was a tough person, and he did not go with Stalin through the war, so he reversed some of the good rapport that existed between Stalin and Roosevelt. After this conference, Truman never met Stalin in person again. Moreover, soon Churchill also left the conference because the results of elections in Britain became known during the conference. And Churchill left, and Clement Attlee, the new Prime Minister of Britain, stayed at the conference in his place. By the time of Potsdam, here was Europe in July 1945. Soviet control over Eastern Europe, Stalin said, was needed for its security. It was a legitimate sphere of interest of the USSR. Refugees from the occupied Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, and the Baltic states were flooding Europe. The conference defined the occupation zones in Germany. This is the zones in 1947. Not only Germany, but also Austria was divided. Germany, in the end, lost about 25% of its pre-war territory. Denazification, democratization, this was all agreed and discussed. Nazi criminals were to be put on trial. There was something else. The Allies decided to dismantle some of German industries. military industries were to be dismantled and destroyed completely. But also such industries as production of metals, chemicals, machinery, these industries were to be limited. And the standard of living in Germany was not to exceed the European average. The Soviet Union got a lot of what it demanded. For example, a part of Prussia, northeastern part of Prussia, with Königsberg, was moved to the USSR. Königsberg was a ruin, and its population left it. What Stalin did not get was the Soviet bases in the Turkish Straits and the Mediterranean. The Allies did not go along with all Stalin's demands on reparations. In the East, Stalin got South Sakhalin and the Kuril Islands, a port and a military base in North China, and the railway to it. It also got the control of Mongolia. These are the borders, the new borders in the Far East. You have to look at the lower part of the picture, which shows the borders after 1945. You can clearly see the southern part of the Sakhalin Island and the Kuril Islands. At the end of the conference, Harry Truman told Stalin that a new powerful weapon was successfully tested by the Americans. Stalin received the news calmly. Soviet intelligence had long ago told him about British and American experiments with the nuclear weapon. Soviets had already started their work on their own nuclear weapons. During the conference, right at the end, ultimatum was sent to Japan on surrender. This started the nuclear arms race, another feature of the post-war world.